What's going on, guys? I'm Michael Anthony, and thank you for checking out my article in this month's Shutter magazine, guys. This month, we're talking all about the importance of storytelling in wedding photography. Now, oftentimes, if you guys look at my work, for instance, you will see epic, dramatic, cinematic portraits, right? And that's the style that I've used to differentiate my type of photography from many of the other photographers on the market, right? But in reality, only a very small portion of the day is dedicated to creating creative photos in these epic and cinematic scenes of our clients, right? The rest of the day, what we're supposed to be doing is documenting and telling the stories that are most important to them and to their, kids and their grandkids generations to come, right? So oftentimes I talk about a couple of different storytelling techniques, but one of the things I want you guys to really focus on in the coming months is to make sure when you guys are photographing weddings, you guys know who is who at the wedding. You know the important people, because oftentimes it's not always obvious, right? Maybe there's a friend in the bridal party that is super important, but you forget to maybe capture enough images of that particular person, or maybe the interactions between that person and the bride and groom. And most of the time it is obvious, and you know who's important at the wedding and who are the people that you guys need to be capturing, right? But when it's not obvious, you have to really look for it, and you have to really make sure that you're taking the time to know who's important at the wedding. Next, when you guys get into the actual wedding day, I want you guys to be able to focus on shooting through the moment. Oftentimes, we get so enveloped in what's going on, we become spectators, right? We become those people who are just watching as moments are unfolding, or even worse, we are trying to shoot, but we're trying to time the most important moment in a sequence of different moments that are happening. So one of the things I always tell people when we're talking about photojournalism and capturing new moments is, as a moment is happening, once you develop that skill set to be able to anticipate that moment, shoot through it. Don't be afraid to fire off 50, 60 images sometimes in the middle of an emotional sequence to make sure you capture that perfect image where everybody has the greatest expression and it's relevant to the story that you're trying to tell, right? So shoot through the moment, make sure you guys are doing that. Third thing I want to talk about is to line up your compositions prior to actually letting the moments happen, right? So maybe I should have talked about this before shooting through the moments, but most importantly, if you guys are shooting creative documentary, you want to capture amazing pictures that are different and unique, but still focus on that photojournalism aspect, you have to line up a lot of your compositions prior to the actual moment in the sequence taking place. So one of the techniques that I've used for years to do this before I switched to mirrorless cameras was a back button focus. By separating my shutter button from my focus mechanism, I'm able to line up my focus, lock it in, and even if my subject changes in the middle of my scene, I'm not affecting the composition or the focus settings of the actual image itself. So it allows me to set my focus, wait for a moment to happen, and when that moment happens, just shoot right through it so we can capture the best possible sequence, right? If you guys are using mirrorless cameras such as the Panasonics or the Sonys or the Fujis that have very, very good tracking in their focus systems, then you don't need to necessarily do this. We don't do it anymore in our own work. Instead, we use continuous autofocus that is focused on the subject's eye or faces or a particular point in the image that we set. But it is real important, nonetheless, to be able to get your composition and be able to utilize that composition through the entire sequence of things that are happening, right? Lastly, guys, I just want to focus on that storytelling element one more time, right? I want you guys to remember that you're shooting for a final product. Now, some of you guys, if you're not selling albums yet, obviously that is a whole nother video we can make here, but I think you need to be shooting for that final album, that final deliverable that you're going to be giving to that client. Even if you're not making it for them, even if the client's making their own album, you need to be shooting with that in mind. So what are the stories that you're trying to tell, right? If you just take one image, for instance, during a first look, the image of her walking up behind, the image of him seeing her, and then the image of her turning around, you might miss, him turning around, you might miss that important image or that important sequence of images that can go to fill up a spread on an album page. So very, very important to make sure that you guys are shooting for that final product, right? When we get into detail photos in the very beginning of the day, I like to shoot them all in the same orientation, and then I like to take one image of maybe the bride or the groom with their details on their body that I could put on the opposite side of the page of all of the static details without people, right? So these are just little ideas that you guys can use when it comes into storytelling, but start thinking about how you're going to tell that final story. We have some really, really good techniques, really good software to design albums right now, but you still have to do the job in camera to make sure you're taking great images to fill those spreads, right? That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you guys again for checking out my article in this month's Shutter Magazine. I can't wait to see some of the awesome stuff you guys do. Tag me in it on Facebook so I can see. I'll catch you guys later. Thanks so much.